San Diego Union Tribune reported.
Right. Now, to protected species, right? But we're okay if some protected species get hurt as long as we cut down the numbers of Mexicans coming across the border. Unless they working in our house, right? Because all these politicians, they got Latinos as servants and maids and all that. They won't give them up, right?
Trump.
But they just don't want nobody coming over here and prospering, right? Go ahead.
The city's Marion Valley area either abuts or overlaps with a national defense area, the narrow fringe of territory along 5 parts of the border that the Trump administration has reclassified as a military facility, enabling soldiers to retain migrants, over 3,000 so far, border-wide, some of whom then get charged with trespassing on a military installation.
So they're just gonna take a piece of land where some Hispanic brothers and sisters live, and they just going to say, you know what, this is military constellation now. And so now we can charge y'all with trespassing when you just been living here probably your whole life.
Damn.
Who's gonna stop them from doing that? Yahweh Shai and the angels, right? The 200 million angels, that's who's gonna stop it, right? So you gotta hurry up and get yourself together, people. All right, let's read on.
Other news, 8 unnamed officials at the Office of Refugee Resettlement, the ORR, told Austin Public Radio that in early November 2025, ORR leadership issued verbal orders to stop releasing unaccompanied migrant children to their relatives or sponsors, quote, until further notice.
All right, read that part again. This is terrible, man. They don't care about a terrified little child, right? He has relatives there willing to take him, but nah, we're gonna keep them. And why do you think that is? Epstein Island has to be populated with some kids, yo. You know what I mean? Why are they taking these kids away from their relatives, not allowing their relatives to get them all of a sudden, you know? Because so-called white man, when you think he's done all the terrorizing and damage that he can do, he'll say, hold my jacket. Watch me get down. Right? Go ahead.
8 unnamed officials at the Office of Refugee Resettlement told Austin Public Radio that in early November 2025, ORR leadership issued verbal orders to stop releasing unaccompanied migrant children to their relatives or sponsors, quote, until further notice. This applies even to children who have cleared the vetting process.
Right. Some kids already been there for the amount of time and they've been vetted or, whatever that means. And so now they should be able to go to a home, right? And stop sleeping under them aluminum foil covers, right? In a heat cooled, untemperature controlled facility. But no, let's keep holding them, right? And this is why it had to be verbal orders, right? Because nobody wants to write that down and leave a paper trail of that. Because now they can just say, well, no, we never said that. This verbal orders, and that's why these 8 individuals are unnamed, right? Because you can't put yourself out there as telling this type of information against the government, right? The military and the government. What do you think's gonna happen to them and their family? So, I mean, that's all the corruption that's going on behind the scenes, people. It's not all hunky-dory and everything's not great here in America just because you got paid today, all right? Go ahead.
While during October 2025, ORR released about 4 children per day to sponsors.
Right, that's how, when things were actually moving at, it's still a slow pace, but they're getting kids that were caught at the border whose parents got taken away from them. See, they're not pointing that part out. Why are these kids even here? Because they got separated from their parents, right? Their parents got deported or locked in prison, or maybe they're there in a separate, building. You know what I mean? So they were releasing, 4 a day? All right, so read on.
While During October 2025, ORR released about 4 children per day to sponsors. It has been nearly zero since then, with unaccompanied children's stays in ORR shelters now stretching into many months.
Months. That's a prison sentence, people. You're being held somewhere you don't want to be. You don't know anybody. You're definitely not getting the proper care, treatment. You know, kid needs to be playing, learning, and I'm sure these kids they're prisoners, right?
Yeah.
And for months at a time, it doesn't say how many months, you know, and some people, you know, whether it be children or adults, have been held for over 2 years here. Even in America, they would call it cruel and unusual punishment for you to be locked up for an unspecified amount of time. You know, you're supposed to know when you're getting out. That way you won't go crazy, right? You won't fall into a depression and kill yourself, unalive yourself, whatever, because there's no hope. You feel that there's no hope, right? Nobody's coming to save you. That's terrible. And this is how they feel and how they operate with the Israelites. You know, they would never let that happen to their children. You know, go ahead.
With unaccompanied children stays in ORR shelters now stretching into many months, the shelters are resembling detention facilities.
Right. So give me Deuteronomy 28, 49 and 50.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, beginning at verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
That's right. That's another thing. You know, these children, they speak Spanish, you know, because of being conquered by a different colonizer, right? So-called white man who speaks Spanish, the Spaniard. But so now they're being confronted by so-called white man who speaks English. And so he's in a land, you know, with a people with a tongue that he does not understand. And go ahead.
Verse 50, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
That's right. Doesn't care how old you are, how young you are, you're an Israelite, right? So in their mind, you deserve this, or you don't deserve better than this. You would say it like that, however you want, right? They would never do such a thing to other Edomites, right? It's not enough that that they holding, you know, the kids or whatever. They just making their lives hell, man. And these people were trying to come to America for a better life. That's why, you know, you just can't trust the devil. Man. You know. Go ahead.
Team Brownsville, a nonprofit that received asylum seekers released from CBP custody, is closing its doors.
Right. Go ahead.
The closure is a consequence of the Texas state government's hostile posture towards groups that provide services to immigrants.
Right. So they're not just it's not just that they want to, you know, penalize or punish the Israelites, but now they want to penalize and punish companies that's trying to help the Israelites. That's terrible, right? So because you had pity on the so-called Mexicans and you created some kind of relief for them, now you're getting shut down. Despicable, right? This is not your friend. This is not the way you treat friends, you understand? Or loved ones, right? So that's why when a so-called white man who's walking around calling himself a Christian falsely tells me he loves me, it's in one ear and out the other. Ain't no need in arguing with him, right? Because he believes that. He'll believe it. He made himself believe that, right? But as soon as you say one wrong thing to him or you look at him wrong, all that's out the window.
Yes.
Right? Now he's gonna cuss you up one side, down the other, and your niggas and spics, and you know, his true colors come out. We'll say it like that, right? All right, let's read on.